Hello and welcome to Rights and Recourse, a program that tackles legal and constitutional issues, bringing you information and analysis. My name is Dumila Matez. Remember, you can also be part of our discussion today by tweeting us at Rights Recourse or calling our studio line on 011 714 5497 or 5498. Alternatively, email your thoughts to rightsandrecourse at sabc.co.za. The prevalence of obesity in South Africa has increased rapidly. Apparently, between 2003 and 2012, obesity rates in South Africa have increased to 10.6% in men and 39.2% in women. Scientists argue that the rising consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages is a significant contributor to this problem. In the light of the concerns of increasing obesity in South Africa and the announcement in the 2016 budget speech of a proposed tax on sugar-sweetened beverages, the impact of the sugar-sweetened consumption on public health, consumers and the industry has come into sharp focus. This begs the question, are sugar taxes an effective way to change consumer behavior? This statement is an introduction to the rationale for the sugar tax by KPMG. Today on Rights and Recourse, we take the debate further and we ask you the same question. Please tweet us around this issue using hashtag #SugarTax. But first, let's have a look at this insert.
For those of you who like fizzy drinks, introduction of a tax on sugar-sweetened beverages. Increases of between 6 and 8.5% in duties on alcoholic beverages and tobacco products.
Well, to discuss this topic, we are joined in the studio by Professor Melvin Freeman, Chief Director, Non-Communicable Diseases from the Department of Health. We also would like to welcome Mr. Leon Lowe, Executive Director from the Free Market Foundation. Gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good to be with you, Jamila.
The question is a big debate that has taken on this week, especially from the industry. But the question is, one is aware that the department that is responsible for the tax regime is the National Treasury. But they would only do that at the behest of the Department of Health. And therefore, one should start the question by asking, what is the rationale behind this tax?
Thanks, Jamila. Well, we've got a growing burden, perhaps we can call it an epidemic, of what we call non-communicable diseases in South Africa. That's diseases like diabetes, heart diseases, strokes, cancer, lung diseases, chronic lung diseases, and so on. And this is growing as a result of changes in behavior, urbanization, industrialization, shifting in the way that people eat, in the exercises that they do, in the smoking, alcohol use, and so on. And due to this rising epidemic, we're having far more people dying from non-communicable diseases. This was not a group of diseases that was prevalent in the early part of last century, for example. So it's very much a lifestyle type disease or set of diseases. And the drivers of this are things like what people eat, as I was saying. And sugar is definitely one of those drivers, that it actually impacts on the metabolism, that actually then increases obesity, which then increases the likelihood of people then getting these other diseases that I was talking about, which then reduces people's life expectancy. And we as a Department of Health need to protect people's health. We need to say, well, we want everybody to have long and healthy lives. That's our aim as a health department. And in order to do that, we can't just treat people, we have to keep people healthy. And one of the ways that we can do that is reducing people's sugar intake, and one of the ways that we can do that is by reducing sugar intake of sugar-sweetened beverages, and one of the ways of doing that, or the best way of doing that, is probably through a taxation.
On many occasions, people have raised the question around the Department of Health, saying the department should rather focus its energies on looking after its institutions that are bursting at their seams, and also what about TB?
Right. Well, the Minister has gone on record many times as saying he's not the Minister of Health Care, he's the Minister of Health. and that his obligation to the public is to keep people as healthy as possible. The minister also knows that the less healthy people are, the more difficult it's going to be for him to reform his health services. Or, let me take it on myself, the more difficult it's going to be for us as a Department of Health to provide better health services. The more sick people there are, the more difficult it is, because we have to have more resources, more human resources, more clinics, and so on and so on. So the healthier our population is, the more we can provide quality health care. So we're doing it for the sake of people, that they then become healthier people and happier people, and it's a great economic benefit for the country and to the health service, because we have to provide less quality, less health care, and therefore better quality health care. So it's a fantastic opportunity to keep people healthy and give better health care.
Professor Freeman, I'm sorry to be belaboring the point, but the question I need to ask is, we all know that South Africa has been struggling to deal with a simple of diseases. TB.
Yeah.
Simple disease, TB. Now we're going to a sophisticated area of wanting to limit the intake of sugar. What about TB, which is a disease that is prevalent amongst poor communities?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we can't neglect HIV, we can't neglect TB. We have to do what we can. But there are also preventive issues in relation to things like TB, good circulation in people's homes, etc. Making sure that people get treatment early. These are important preventive interventions. So we have to take a preventive approach. But also when you look at what people are dying from in South Africa, it's becoming more and more non-communicable diseases, especially since we've managed to get more control over the HIV epidemic through antiretroviral treatment. So at one stage, the graphs were going like up in terms of your communicable diseases. And as a result, less people proportionately were dying from non-communicable diseases, but that's swapped around again, because as more people are being saved from dying from the communicable diseases, proportionately far more people are dying from the non-communicable diseases. And in Africa, people die from non-communicable diseases at a far earlier, younger age than in developed countries. So, for example, in developed countries, about 30% of your population will die from non-communicable diseases under the age of 60. But in developed countries, that proportion is far, far higher. So people are dying at an earlier age from the non-communicable diseases.
Well, I want to say here, before we continue the discussion with Leon, we did invite the industry, but unfortunately the industry did not see their way and coming through to this debate, and therefore I hope Leon can field some of the questions we had put aside from the industry. Leon, the question I want to know probably from you is what are the negative economic and behavioral repercussions that we are going to face by introducing this tax?
Well, let's just start by pointing out something completely false about what Professor Freeman says, and since he's a professor and working in this field for many years, I presume he knows it's false. The reason people are now having higher health expenses and the department is stretched is because people are living longer. We in South Africa have one of the highest rates of increase in life expectancy of any country in the world. He knows that. So he knows that this means there are more people needing health care, and he also knows that that is the one objective statistic that tells you whether people are healthier. So South Africans are in fact healthier, meaning they're alive, they're living longer. And what are the implications for behavioral change? Well, firstly, the behavioral change that this tax would introduce will be close to zero. In Mexico, there was a short-term reduction, and by the way, they keep referring to Mexico like a stuck record. There are 200 countries in the world. So we can learn from all of these countries, including Denmark, where they tried it and there was no reduction and they withdrew it. They tried a fat tax, they withdrew it. This is actually, in terms of lifestyle, a frontal assault on human happiness. I want every viewer out there to understand that these are bigots and Puritans who hate the thought that someone somewhere might actually enjoy themselves. that somebody might actually have pleasure from something. They can't stand it if they smoke or drink, or they're proposing a tax on TV programs that cause people to sit and watch too long. They want to take sugar or salt and restrict salt and junk food and so on. They've got an assault on the viewers out there. Every viewer out there must understand, if you don't have sugar, I don't take sugar, by the way. I've never smoked and I don't drink. But I want people to do, and I know you have a sweet tooth. Okay. That's a biological condition. That's the same as your race. So they want to discriminate against you because of your biology. That is like discriminating against you because of your race. And the answer is this will bring about no respectable change in behavior whatsoever. According to the statistician Garth Sitzman, the best prediction, even if you take the exaggerated claims, will be the equivalent of somebody walking an extra 290 steps per day. The average poor person walks well over 1,000, up to 3,000. So a little bit extra walking will actually do a lot more for health than this frankly ridiculous tax. It's not a sugar tax. It's a happiness tax. This is a tax against human pleasure and happiness.
Well, Leon did actually come across me enjoying a sweet beverage that I was taking before I came to the program. If you'd like to join us in today's discussion, please call us on 011-714-5497 or 5498. Alternatively, tweet us at Recourse. But for this program, tweet us as #SugarTax. Stay with us.
From the moment you start your day.
My biggest question is how I got myself here on time. Yeah. This is so early for a comedian, I gotta be honest.
We are there for you.
We bring your morning into perspective.
As news breaks throughout the morning,
is an investment into the future of the airports company, but also the future of our children, the future of our country, the future of the transport sector.
We'll make sure that you get the full story.
Give us quality music.
Load shedding. Listen, this winter.
It's a thing of the past.
And you can count on the weather team with expertise.
Join us live at 6 a.m. daily.
BevSA says it's not only soft drinks that cause obesity amongst consumers. It says the proposed tax is punitive and has created uncertainty in the industry. It adds that sugary drinks account for only 3% of daily intake of calories in South Africa. The association says about 72,000 jobs could be lost if the tax is implemented. Consumers will also have to pay more for the soft drinks.
If this sugar goes ahead, it is around 35% price increase on sweetened soft drinks beverages. We will see at least 26% reduction in volume. That reduction affects people that supply us not only just with sugar, could be cans, could be packaging, could be other raw materials. Those people will be affected together with the people that they employ. Our customers that we service, who depend so much. I mean, a general trade, a spaza shop we contribute almost 30% of their revenue is from beverages. If that drops significantly, a number of spaza shops will close. That will impact on employment.
The Beverage Association says the tax will disrupt the economy rather than improve health and reduce obesity.
The contribution of this industry towards caloric intake is only 3%. And sugar in itself accounts for some 10%. So we only 3% of that 10%. So what we're saying is we want to understand what's the basis of Treasury calling out for this tax on this industry in particular. And we would like to sit with them around the table to share our findings and then ask them to share theirs so that we can get a balance of what it is that we're talking to.
The introduction of the sugar tax was announced in the February budget by Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and is expected to come into effect next April. Doris Tafakomosi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, those are the views there of Velapi Ratsifula, Chairman of Beverages SA, and Mapule Nanywa, the Executive Director of Beverages SA. The questions they're asking there, but before we can talk about what they were talking about, let's take this call from Precious from KwaZulu-Natal. Precious, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mateza.
Yes, Precious. What is your point?
Mr. Mateza, my point is about the economic impact of the sugar tax. Look, the sugar tax will be like any other tax. It will deplete the disposable income of the consumer. And when it depletes the disposable income, it will actually reduce the demand for other goods because the money that we earn is going to be reduced by the sugar tax. And then when the disposable income falls, the demand for goods falls, and that will have a ripple effect in the economy. However, there was an article in the business report, I think last week, from the industry, Mr. Gooch wrote that if the sugar tax is successful, what it will do, it will discourage the use of the beverages, and then they will have to shed 60,000 jobs from the industry. And he argues that people will not necessarily be healthier, but they will be poorer. I don't think the sugar tax is the right way to go, because sugar consumption is not only in sugary beverages; it is also found in biscuits, in sweets, and other things. So I don't think the sugar tax is the right way to go. Because also, even if you look at the tobacco and the alcohol tax, that tax has not reduced the consumption of those goods because they are habit forming, they are addictive. So you don't want to tell me that people drink less today because there is a tax on alcohol. So I don't think the sugar tax will do anything other than harming the economy in terms of the people losing the jobs. Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you very much, Precious. That's a view there from Precious. And just want to go back to some of the things that we heard from Mr. Ratsifula and Ms. Nanywa. Professor Freeman, one of the things, probably let's start them up with what Precious is saying, is the tax is going to have an huge economic impact, taking away disposable income from people. As I said earlier in our discussion, we live in a country where people are living in poverty, dire poverty. And when they are hungry, they take something sweet and the hunger goes away for a while. I do the same thing sometimes when I'm hungry because I didn't have breakfast this morning, so I had a little sweet drink, and that's what Leon caught me drinking. The other thing that is raised by Mapule Nanywa is that the tax is punitive.
Okay. You know, it seems to me that the industry wants to have it both ways, and the caller too. On the one hand, they say it's actually not going to influence behavior. In other words, people are going to still consume the same amount of beverages at a higher cost, and therefore they'll have less money in their pocket. So it's not going to influence consumption because it's a blunt instrument that doesn't actually change what people do, other than that they pay more for it. On the other hand, they're saying it's going to change behavior to such an extent that we're going to lose 60,000 or 70,000 jobs. How is it possible, if people are consuming exactly what they used to consume before, for us to lose jobs? Because presumably they'd have to produce the same amount of beverage. They can't have it both ways. They've either got to say, this is actually not going to work in changing people's behavior, or it is going to change people's behavior. And if it does change behavior, which is what we want, we think that people will have more money in their pockets to spend on other things, including beverages which don't have so much sugar. There is a choice, and we have also said to the beverage industry, reformulate what you are producing. Then you don't have to have a tax on it. Put less sugar in, then there's less tax on it. That's what we're wanting to happen. Okay? So if that happens, then there should be no job losses.
Leon, I know you wanted to wade into what Professor Freeman was saying, but I want to, in the case of industry, what is wrong with the government trying to discourage the citizen from indulging on certain foodstuffs in lieu of a healthy lifestyle?
Yes, the industry, by the way, is not the one trying to have it both ways. It's the Department of Health which is trying to have it both ways. If it does indeed reduce consumption, which it probably won't, All the evidence says it won't, or if it does, it will be so minimal that it will add a few minutes to your life expectancy at best. You probably won't even achieve that. If it does have the effect of reducing consumption, then it does mean that people are going to lose jobs in the industry, in agriculture and farming and catering and so on industry. If it doesn't have that effect, then it means something very serious indeed. This talk about sin tax, say on tobacco and liquor and so on, the Mexican government found that it didn't, and it suddenly had more money than it expected. It predicted a reduction, more money came in. Now, everyone must understand this is simple arithmetic. This is not rocket science. If you spend more on a sweetened beverage or tobacco or alcohol or junk food or salt or any of the TV or anything of the things that the Department of Health don't like, they don't like anything we like, by the way, as citizens. They hate people being happy. But then it means the money is coming from something else. So in other words, you're spending less money on healthy things, food, exercise, education, clothing, furniture, training, whatever it is. So the Department of Health says either it works and then it doesn't admit that there's going to be job losses, or it doesn't work, in which case what it means is they are actually taxing healthy activities. They are discouraging health, not ill health.
I just want to go back to Professor Freeman. You actually wanted to say something, and I interrupted you. My apologies.
Well, I was trying to answer your last issue about taking a little bit of sugar and feeling okay for a couple of hours. Well, that's exactly where the problem lies, because the sugar-sweetened beverage has absolutely no nutritional value at all. And we need nutrition in order to keep functioning effectively. So by taking that little bit of sugar that you're talking about, you are depriving yourself of nutritional value, which would actually make you healthier and happier. I do concern about happiness. A healthier and happier person. Whereas now you've got the short-term kick, but it's bad for your health. It's causing you to develop diabetes and cardiac diseases and so on, which is going to put you in hospital at some point or make you die. You know, we do have a concern in the Department of Health that people do live long and healthy lives. Leon doesn't believe that. He thinks that it's okay to be happy and have a short life expectancy. That's fine. You can smoke as much as you want, drink as much as you want, do whatever you want. You're very happy and then you die.
Let's take this call. Let's take this call from Beta from Johannesburg. Beta, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon to you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm a herbal doctor, and I just want to go through this process of sugar. I am totally 100% supportive of the Act because the sugar that we've got on our table nowadays is going through 17 processes from the sugar cane. They take out everything that is good out of the sugar, and then they put that on our tables. If they put that on our tables, that is why the sugar is so poisonous. Yes, they also use the sugar in all sorts of other products, especially the pre-packed products, and that's also causing a lot of problem. And they never divulge this particular aspect on the labeling. So the labeling is of paramount importance. But supportive of the Act, 100%. What I can't understand, though, is the Department of Health takes anything and everything off the shelves. Why don't they put something back on the shelf, something nutritious, something that is healthy and no side effects? But they take everything else off the shelves instead of allowing the herbs to come into effect as well. Synthetic works, yes, very definitely so, but not the others. That is my point.
Thank you very much. Let's try and answer what he says. He says the department takes something off the shelves. What does it put back? The other question, of course, Leon, probably you can answer that question. The issue of where the sugar comes from. How does it get to us on the table at the end of the day? Prof, probably we should start with you. What are you putting back on the table, on the shelves, if you are taking things off the shelves?
Well, the industry have been saying as part of this debate that they have an interaction with us. And part of this interaction is to challenge the industry to say, please put healthier foods on the shelves at affordable prices. Because what actually happens is that the junk foods are the cheapest and the most affordable to the majority of people. The healthier food is out of their access. And that does lead to people eating the fattiest parts of the meat, the sugar that gives them the quick kick, and healthier foods they don't get access to. So we've said to the industry, please work with us to make healthy foods more accessible. You know, within the private sector there are groups like Discovery Health and so on, which give discounts to people for buying healthier foods. If we could do that within the public sector, that would be a really good incentive, because we would like to incentivize rather than punish. But it's very difficult to do that kind of thing in the public sector, and without the support of industry, who are really not looking at health, but mainly looking at their bottom line.
What do you say to what Leon raised earlier about the fact that this tax has not worked in Mexico? On top of that, Denmark did away with this tax, and also is it Iceland that did away with the tax except Denmark?
Okay. I'll limit my vocabulary because it's not true. Firstly,
I wanted to hear that other vocabulary.
Okay. Firstly, in Mexico, it has worked. The 10%.
It's only worked by filling up the coffers of government.
No. It has reduced sugar-sweetened beverages by 6%. What it has done also, though, is increase the volume of unsugary drinks that is bought in Mexico. So people have swapped from the unhealthy to the healthy. And so altogether, it hasn't resulted in job losses, because it's just resulted in switches for people. So it has reduced, and he said in the first year it did, and then after that it didn't. But our interactions now with Mexico show that in fact it is a sustainable product. I mean, a sustainable impact from the tax. But there are a number of other countries as well. It's not just Denmark and Iceland and Mexico.
Finland,
it's Finland, it's
Hungary,
Mauritius, it's Hungary.
And Ireland.
Yes. And one also perhaps has to look at Denmark as a special case, because I think that people do have higher levels of disposable income in a country like Denmark, whereby the little bit of extra tax that they have to pay perhaps would not shift their behavior. Now, it's been said of us that this is an anti-poor tax. We say it's a pro-poor tax, because by restricting the amount of sugar-sweetened beverages that poor people can take in, we are improving their health.
I just want to turn that question around Denmark, that the professor saying the people of Denmark probably don't see the need for them to have this tax, but unfortunately I would want to believe that it is impeding on our constitutional rights, that we cannot eat this, you can't eat that, you can't eat that. I think in Denmark they understand that better.
Yes, I think this is absolutely true, and I'm not going to swallow my words. Let me just refer to Professor Freeman. If it's a contest between who's telling the truth, him or me, about Denmark or Finland or Iceland or anywhere else, or Mexico, in a panel discussion I had with him earlier this week, he said that Section 27 of our Constitution says people are entitled to health, not health care. I presume he has read the section before he quotes it, and that was simply a lie. And I think he knew it was a lie. It actually says people are entitled to healthcare services. So now let me then go into what I believe the truth to be, and anyone can check this out. It's readily available data on the internet. It did by no means at any stage reduce consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages by 6%. It reduced it by a much smaller percent, or let us say, not it reduced it, consumption fell in the first year and then rose again. So whether it had anything to do with the sugar tax is not at all clear. But the statistics are, which he knows, is that if you succeed with this tax in reducing the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages by the maximum amount their exaggerated lies claim, that's what they are, then you will add to everybody's life expectancy a few minutes, if you're lucky. Now, as to the poor, let's be clear about this. He has said, not me, he, that this is a discrimination against the poor. He has said that this doesn't impact the rich. He has says that the people you mix with in your daily life will not buy any less sweetened beverages at all. This is a regressive tax. It's a discriminatory tax. It's a discrimination not only against the poor, who will be paying more of their income than the rich would to buy sugar-sweetened beverages, but it's a discrimination against obese people, fat people, people who are already socially stigmatized. This is the social implications of this are just absolutely ghastly. How dare you say that somebody who is overweight, who might have a biological sweet tooth, has to pay more tax than someone like me who isn't overweight and doesn't have sugar? This is a socially, I believe it is unconstitutional. Section 1 of our Constitution says people have the right to enjoy freedom and they have the right to human dignity. This is an invasion of the right to enjoyment and dignity.
Thank you very much. I didn't want to say that. I'm happy you are saying it. If you'd like to join us on today's discussion, please call us on 011 714 5497. Alternatively, tweet us at Rights and Recourse or send us your emails about this program and many others at rightsandrecourse@sabc.co.za. Stay with us.
You see this, but you feel this. You see this, but this is what you feel. You don't see this, but it feels something like this. And this is what you drive. The Audi A4 110 kilowatt Sport from only 5,999 per month. And we'll cover almost 3/4 of the deposit. We'll pay for the dream so you can drive the reality.
Now this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refill Wemwilo.
I'm Dr. Selom Mutaung, and this is Health Talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumile Matez.
My name is Mpo Sedu. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back to Rights and Recourse. You're still watching this program and you see the debate is becoming very heated here between Leon and Professor Freeman. But the question I want to ask Professor, probably you should have known this right up front. We know that the tax is around 20%, and what does it entail?
Yes. Let me say at the outset that this is a Treasury tax. It's not a Department of Health tax, but the proposal that they have put on the table is that it should come out to an average of around about 20%. This will vary depending on the product because, for example, Coca-Cola has 8 spoons of sugar in a 350 ml tin, whereas some of the other products have to have up to about 14 spoons of sugar. And I needed to say that because I think the listeners need to know actually how many spoons of sugar they're taking when they're taking one cold drink. And in fact, for a child, one cold drink is more than enough sugar that they are expected to take altogether in a day. So let me get back to your question. Mexico did round about 10% and they got a 6% reduction. We think that we can get far more than a 6% reduction, which is what we're aiming for. So we think that a 20%, they talk about elasticities. In other words, what is your breaking point after which it actually starts impacting in your pocket? If it was a 1%, it's not going to make a difference to anybody. So you have to work out what percentage is going to make a difference. And I am aware that in the comments that have been received by Treasury, some people are saying it's too low and others people are saying it's too high. And Treasury is going to have to make that decision.
So see, Professor, the problem, I have a problem. The problem I have around this issue is the fact that this tax is on sugar beverages. And on top of that, it doesn't say anything about somebody at home who puts 6 teaspoons of sugar in a tea, 8 teaspoons of sugar in coffee. It doesn't say anything about that.
Absolutely, and I think that the point that you are making is that this in itself or alone is not going to be sufficient, and we absolutely agree with that. We think that there needs to be a lot more information out to the public. We think there needs to be education and awareness around the dangers of sugar, because they are quite severe. It's true, we haven't done as well as we should in terms of our preventive programs in the Department of Health. We are hoping that in the next few years, together with this tax, we will introduce a whole number of different things that are actually going to contribute to this reduction in not only sugar intake, but reduction in non-communicable diseases as a whole. So, for example, you're right, we need to increase physical activity. But we also know that people don't necessarily have access to gyms and things. They're very expensive. So one of the things that we will be engaging with the Department of Sport and Recreation is around things like sport in schools and making that compulsory, or putting gyms in parks, you know.
There's been talk about that,
Yeah.
Professor. I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you. There's been talk about there should be physical education should go back to schools for a long time now, and I haven't seen the start to this. Besides, another thing, now that you're going to cut down on the sugar beverages, the next thing you're going to say, Coca-Cola or any other company that is involved in that area should not sponsor sport at schools. And these are the companies that are sponsoring sport at schools.
Yeah, well, we're very worried about the fact that they're encouraging school children to eat, because children are a real target, and obese children become obese adults and develop these non-communicable diseases. The rise in obesity in schools is alarming to us. And if you say to us we don't need to do anything about it, we would be very worried about that.
No, we're not saying nothing should be done. We're talking about physical education. Probably let me ask Leon this question. Leon, I looked at this and I found that it should have a carrot and a stick, but it doesn't have a carrot and a stick because there is no incentive for the consumers.
Well, let me just immediately say, in a free society, you have only carrots, not sticks. You should not be trying to penalize and coerce people. And ideally, you know, Professor Freeman has said this is only a start. There's more to come. The viewers need to know that. You need to know this. What they have in mind is a total control of your lifestyle. Everything you enjoy, whether it's fast food or wine with your meal or salt or fatty chops or...
But I've heard the minister talk about salt.
Yes, no, they want to, and even TV. And this idea of compulsory exercise, by the way, I would say, no, you encourage it, but you don't want to make it compulsory, and it sounds okay in schools. Countries like North Korea have now introduced compulsory exercise for adults. The Department of Health considers you, Dumile, to be its thing. You belong to it. You're a chemical process. It is going to make you live a healthy, long life, whether you like it or not, regardless of whether you're happy, regardless of whether you enjoy it, regardless of whether you're depressed and sugar or tobacco or liquor or salt or fat or whatever, or if eating helps you deal with your psychological disorder or condition. The Department of Health does not care about you as a human being. It regards you as a chemical process. You put this chemical in, it has that chemical consequence. It doesn't regard you as belonging to yourself, as being the boss of yourself. It's one thing to say, as I do, avoid or cut sugar, avoid or cut tobacco, alcohol, exercise regularly, don't sit and watch TV too long. I encourage that. But it's a completely different thing in a society of emancipated, mature, liberated adults who fought and died for their freedom, to now have a Department of Health which is going to discriminate against you based on your biology.
But the other thing, Leon, I read a statement by Velaphi Ratsifula, chairman of the Beverages SA, where he said their profits are going to more than half. Really?
Yes,
is this what it's come down to? Are profits more important than people's lives and well-being?
Yeah, I very much doubt that. I think that Professor Freeman thinks profits are more important than life, and he would like their profits to fall by 50%. No. I would not. I would say no, that's probably an exaggeration. But let me say that any prediction made is a guessing game. There's no empirical or statistical or scientific way of making these predictions. So if they say this is going to result in profits falling by 50%, you can get an accountant, a statistician to make such a calculation.
Why don't you respond, Professor?
You could respond by saying, which is what I would say, this tax will have no effect at all of any consequence, and it'll probably make almost no difference, and then they admit they'll just increase it until it hurts the poor so much that they stop enjoying themselves.
I wanted Professor to respond, but let's take this call from Bongile from the Eastern Cape. Bongile, good afternoon, and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon, sir. I think the tax would have an effect. You know, when I look at the cold drinks, you take 250 mils, and how much sugar is there? The gentleman on with you there will tell me it's a lot of sugar. So you drink maybe 2 liters per day, then it's leading to obesity. It can affect the obesity. Now, when I look now in the Eastern Cape here, where the schools are being built, in the former Transkei, there are no playgrounds, of which the government is always saying that we encourage sport at schools, but there are no playing grounds. That is why it may result to obesity, lot of pregnancy, because there's no sport, there's nothing to do, and there's no development in that way. Thank you. I just wanted to comment there.
Thank you, Bongile. That's what Bongile is saying. Bongile actually coming to your defense, Professor. I don't know whether you want to respond to what Bongile is saying, and also in that response, respond to what Leon was saying.
Thank you. Yes, we agree that there needs to be more sport at schools and so on. But if people continue to take the amount of sugar and other unhealthy foods that they currently do, even with exercise, it's not going to balance it out. It's not going to be enough. It's not good enough to have this calories in, calories out notion. If you eat badly, even if you exercise, you're still going to get obese. Okay? We are saying you need to do both in order to be healthy, and that's what we are aiming for. And that's why I was saying we need to involve other sectors together and not just make this the one approach, but have multiple approaches. That's for the healthiest person.
Well, I looked at, I'm sorry, Professor, I looked at what you are saying. Tim Noakes, who I thought I should have had here, Professor Tim Noakes, who I thought I should have had on this discussion, says if government wants to curb the growing ill health of South Africans, it needs to follow a much more comprehensive plan. Sugar is not the sole problem.
And I would agree with that. It's not the sole problem, but it doesn't mean to say that it is not a problem. And sugar-sweetened beverages have no nutrition in them. So there's no good other than this little bit
Let's
of happiness.
take this call from Wayne in Cape Town. Wayne, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to your guest. I'd like to say we are starting by the tax on sugar now. And where are we going to move to next? To red meat. And there on where we're moving next. And this is hurting the poor. It's not going to hurt the rich. So people will must have the right to choose. They must rather be educated. It must be in the schools. Everybody must know the effects of it. And that is the best way. But just to put a tax on it, it's just going to hurt the poor. And this money that's going to be generated now, how will it be plowed back into community?
Thank you very much, Wayne. Thank you. Wayne has raised a very important theme there. What is going to happen to this money? Because we know already many people have raised the issue of the plastic bags that we are paying tax for by the Department of Environmental Affairs. And it has come out that nobody knows what happens to that money that is paid for the plastic bags. The other question that Wayne is raising, that Leon has been raising here with us, is are we becoming a nanny state?
Let's first talk about the tax. Where's it going? This is going to be Treasury's prerogative, but we are hearing, And I believe that the Treasury is hearing what people are saying around this. And I think they, as much as we, are aware that the tax needs to be accompanied by other interventions. So I don't want to say more than that because this is Treasury's decision, but I think that they are cognizant of the fact that that there is a lot more that needs to be done, that money will be coming in, and that there could be some association between those two. So let me stop there. Nanny state, I find this a strange concept, and let me relate back to what Leon was saying earlier about us trying to control people's behavior. You know, we have a speed limit on our roads, and we have robots or traffic lights. These are laws which are there to regulate reasonable behavior and to improve health. If not, everybody would be going at such speeds and having crashes, and we'd be depriving our country of the good resources that it needs. So trying to make people healthy and to live long lives is surely not a sin. Surely that's what we have to do if we want the best from our country. I also just want to give you a very quick study that was done by the United States Chamber of Commerce, and that's a group that I'm sure Leon probably respects. They are saying that as
Chamber of Commerce of South Africa.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
They did a study
not
around
the group
the world.
that is in South Africa of American companies that are in South Africa.
No, they did
they
did a study of a whole number of different countries.
My apologies.
On what the impact of health is on the economy, and particularly of non-communicable diseases. And they are saying that as a result of absenteeism and presenteeism, which basically is people at work but not functioning well because they are ill and so on, and early retirement is about 6.8% of the GDP of South Africa. Okay, so we can say it has no impact if we got these sick people because it doesn't impact on the economy. It does impact on the economy. Let's have a healthy population, and then we'll have a healthy economy.
Well, we are going to continue with our discussion here on the sugar tax. If you'd like to join us, you can phone us on 011 714 5497 or 5498. Stay with us.
He appealed for the disruptions to come to an end so the future of the children is not compromised.
The union said the latest offer by Eskom will condemn its members to poverty.
Samples from the 2012 London Olympic Games and 2014 Sochi Winter Games will also be retested.
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
Welcome back to Rights and Recourse as we discuss the issue of the sugar tax and what its impact is going to be on both the economy and the man in the street. Leon, you wanted to respond to some of the issues raised by the Professor.
Yes, Professor said a few times, as is our Minister of Health and Against Freedom, as I like to call our Department of Health, that there's no nutritional value to sugar-sweetened beverages. Now, let me point out that there's no nutritional value to people sitting and watching this program. You don't live in order to have nutritional value. You live in order to do what you enjoy doing, and it's in fact unhealthy. People watching this program, the Department of Health would probably like to ban it and force them to go outside and exercise and drink distilled water instead of sweetened water and so on. The absence of nutritional value is completely irrelevant to this discussion. You don't consume sugar-sweetened beverages or glass of wine at dinner or have a cigarette or put salt on your food. You do it because it's nice. You do it because you enjoy it. You don't do it to get nutritional value. The Lancet magazine, which is a sort of Bible of our Department of Health, recently published an article saying sitting, what the three of us are doing, is as dangerous as smoking. They want to start regulating how long people sit. They want to force people to get up and walk around. Education has no nutritional value. Reading a book has no nutritional value. Watching a movie has no nutritional value. This is completely got nothing to do with it at all. Enjoying sugar you do because it's nice. It's enjoyable. It causes human happiness and pleasure.
And
the
it's
Department of Health, the Department of Health has no. Well, watching this program, according to them, is bad for you. If you lived the life the Department of Health wants you to live, you will live a long, very miserable life indeed. You will be an exceedingly unhappy, miserable human being. That is what the Department of Health's fantasy is for you, Dumile.
The other question I have, I'm sorry to sound a little bit negative around this tax, because it's a tax. It's going to tax me, so I sound a little bit negative. But the question is, many people are asking, what's going to happen to the sugar industry, and what is the response of that industry, which is already under some strain, amongst other things, the severe droughts and an economy that is not growing? Where is what's going to happen to that industry? Any one of you can answer the question.
Well, presumably, as a result of those things, they're producing less sugar. I think that's the point that you are making. If they are already producing less sugar, then they don't have to import more. I think they are importing at the moment in order for people to drink.
It's not because of the drought that they are importing?
Well, it probably is, but I'm saying let's stop them from having to import. Let's promote our own agriculture. Maybe it's enough for us. Let's not import more and kill our people. I've got no problem.
Let's take this call from G from Eastern Cape. G, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, G.
All I want to say is I've been into several schools in the Eastern Cape, and all to do with the sugar story. It's actually not got to do with it. It's the fact that the children are indolent. They are not being given time to play sport. The schools are well equipped in the Eastern Cape, loads of brand new schools, beautiful. They could have plenty of fields, but the teachers are just jolly idle, and they are not helping the children to play sport. When you get the children onto the sports field, they'll become thinner, they won't desire the sugar, they'll be enjoying sport. That's my input. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean. I want to come back to Leon. We're running out of time quickly. The issue here is probably, Prof, you yourself can join up. Obviously, take into account the direction of the industry of the 20%, whatever percentage is going to be taxed, the levy is going to be on sugar-sweetened beverages. It is pretty clear that nothing stops the industry from passing on this tax to the consumer.
Yes, that is in fact what happens. All tax, everything paid, people have difficulty understanding this. Companies do not pay tax. Consumers pay tax. And what happens is companies have to run at a constant rate of profit. The rate of return annually stays the same over many, many decades, regardless of the tax rate and regardless of the regulatory burdens. So these bureaucratic controls and taxes are simply passed through to the consumer, and the consumer who is impacted by them is the poor consumer. And the poor consumer, we've just heard from G, is absolutely right, goes to school. There's pretty much no sport there. I don't know if this is true, but there is a story I was told. You are a sports expert yourself, Dumile, you might know that there's a racial component to this. I understand that predominantly black schools in South Africa have very little extramural sport, and the teachers do not get involved in it, and the predominantly white-coloured and Indian schools do, and that this might be the explanation for example, the lack of people playing at the national or provincial level in sports like rugby or cricket. I don't know if that's true, you might know, but the point is, this is an attack on the poor, and what we need is the poor to have a healthy lifestyle, not an expensive lifestyle.
Professor, quickly, the industry has said it called for more discussions. You alluded to that. Are these discussions going on with you or with the with Treasury? In a few seconds.
The public comments were received by the Treasury, and there were about 135 public comments. And from what I understand, it's from the industry, it's from scientists, it's from advocates, and all of these have to be considered. And in that process, Treasury is going to have to consider all of these inputs, but of course they are also interested in knowing what the health department says about these things, so I'm sure we will be brought into those discussions.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I hope you did not put on your gloves to hit each other. I'm very happy. I was not going to be the referee. I want to say the views expressed in this program are not necessarily those of the SABC. According to a study by McKinsey Global Institute, interventions with the highest impact on weight change include portion control, product reformulation, and parental or societal education. There is no direct evidence that sugar taxes reduce obesity at all. The case of their adoption is based solely on unproven assumptions. This has been Rights and Recourse. This program is repeated on Wednesday morning at 5. And from all of us in the studio, thank you very much for your time, and thank you to our guests. Goodbye.